What family medical emergency did your parents refuse to believe until it was almost too late? My sister Vanessa started complaining about stomach pain on a Thursday morning while we were getting ready for school. She was 16 and I was 14, and we shared a bathroom where I watched her double over the sink, her face pale and sweaty. She said it felt like someone was stabbing her in the lower right side of her stomach, but when I suggested telling our parents, she shook her head. They'd just say I was trying to get out of my history test, she muttered, straightening up with visible effort. Our parents had this thing about toughness, about not giving in to weakness or seeking attention through complaints. Vanessa was right, that they wouldn't take it seriously. By lunchtime, Vanessa texted me from her classroom saying the pain was getting worse. She'd gone to the nurse twice, but the nurse just gave her crackers and said it sounded like gas, or maybe her period starting. I knew Vanessa's period wasn't due for another week because she tracked it religiously in her planner, always prepared with supplies and pain medication. This was something different. When we got home that afternoon, Vanessa went straight to her room and curled up on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. I brought her water and she tried to drink it, but immediately ran to the bathroom and vomited. The sound of her retching made my stomach clench with worry. Our mother came home from work around 6 and found Vanessa still in bed, refusing to come down for dinner. Mom stood in the doorway of Vanessa's room with her arms crossed, that expression on her face that meant she thought someone was being dramatic. "What's wrong with you?" she asked in a tone that made it clear she expected the answer to be nothing serious. Vanessa explained about the stomach pain and the vomiting, and Mom's expression didn't change at all. "You're probably starting your period," Mom said dismissively. "Take some Tylenol and use a heating pad. You can't just lie in bed every time you have cramps, Vanessa. You need to learn to push through discomfort like every other woman does." I followed Mom downstairs and tried to explain that Vanessa seemed really sick, that she'd been in pain all day and the vomiting wasn't normal. Mom waved me off while pulling leftovers from the refrigerator, telling me that Vanessa had always been prone to exaggeration when it came to minor aches and pains. "She's dramatic about everything," Mom said. "Last month she insisted she had the flu when it was just a cold. The month before that she claimed she couldn't go to school because of a headache. She needs to stop looking for excuses to get attention and special treatment." I stood there feeling helpless, knowing that arguing would just make Mom more convinced that Vanessa was faking. Dad got home an hour later and Mom filled him in on Vanessa's situation with an eye roll that communicated her complete lack of concern. Dad went upstairs to check on Vanessa and came back down shaking his head. He reported that she was being melodramatic about normal period symptoms, that she needed to learn pain management skills instead of wallowing in bed. He said when he was growing up, people didn't make such a fuss about routine discomfort. They just took an aspirin and got on with their responsibilities. Mom nodded in agreement and they both settled in to watch television, like everything was fine, like their daughter wasn't upstairs in obvious distress. I snuck back to Vanessa's room after dinner and found her in worse condition than before. Her face had gone from pale to grayish, and sweat soaked through her shirt despite her shivering under 2 blankets. The pain had intensified to the point where she could barely speak without gasping, and when I asked her to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, she whispered 11. I begged her to let me get our parents again, but she just shook her head. "They won't believe me," she said through gritted teeth. "They'll just get mad that I'm still complaining. You know how they are." She was right, but watching her suffer felt unbearable. That night I barely slept, listening through the wall that separated our rooms as Vanessa moaned and shifted around, clearly unable to find any comfortable position. Around 3 in the morning, I heard her get up and stumble to the bathroom where she vomited again. The sound was different this time, wetter and more violent, and when she came back to her room she was crying softly. I wanted to go to her, but I was frozen with indecision, torn between respecting her wishes and my growing certainty that something was seriously wrong. Every instinct told me this wasn't period cramps, but I was 14, and my parents had already dismissed the situation. What could I possibly do? Friday morning, Vanessa couldn't get out of bed at all. When I went to check on her before school, she was curled in the fetal position, her breathing shallow and rapid. Her skin felt hot to the touch, and when I pulled back the blanket to look at her stomach, I could see it was visibly swollen on the right side, distended in a way that looked completely wrong. I ran downstairs and told our parents that Vanessa was much worse, that her stomach looked swollen and she had a fever. Mom sighed heavily and said Vanessa needed to stop this nonsense, that she was going to miss school over regular period symptoms. Dad added that Vanessa was old enough to manage her own menstrual cycle without making it everyone else's problem. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching my parents eat breakfast and discuss their work schedules like their daughter wasn't upstairs, potentially dying. The disconnect between their casual morning routine and what I just witnessed in Vanessa's room felt surreal and horrifying. When I tried one more time to convince them this was serious, Dad snapped at me to stop enabling Vanessa's attention-seeking behavior. He said I was being manipulated by her dramatics, that sisters needed to support each other by encouraging strength instead of coddling weakness. Mom told me to hurry up and finish getting ready or I'd be late for school, and that Vanessa would be fine when she stopped feeling sorry for herself. The school bus ride felt endless as I sat there thinking about Vanessa alone in the house, suffering without help. I couldn't focus in any of my classes.